What is the thing we don't talk about in your family? My second cousin was always very introverted. Nobody ever really saw him and he never really met anyone beyond immediate family due to him just not being interested in knowing any of us. He left home and cut everyone off. Hell, I had no idea he existed. Fast forward and my first cousin is excited to bring her husband to the family reunion. The two eloped, so we did not know who this mystery man was. She walks up and there's our second cousin with her. The older family members knew exactly who he was and, well, they were expecting and married, so we said frick it and just had the family reunion. We don't mention the cousin thing because it's been acknowledged and we all decided to move past it as to not make them feel weird. How my parents were able to afford a house suddenly while working a minimum wage job and having recently immigrated to America dirt poor. They would never tell me where they got the money from. You're not the only thing they smuggled in. Logistically, my sister's first child cannot possibly have been her husband's biological child, but he claimed the child as his own. They eloped about 6 weeks before he was born. There is no way he wasn't deployed when conception took place. She hasn't ever said a single word about it, but everyone knows. We're not sure if he's actually that bad at math, he is pretty dumb, or if he didn't care. Maybe he's got sperm issues and they decided to do the sperm donor way. Mom's side, my great uncle sexually assaulted my aunt when she was a child and seriously damaged her cervix. As a result, all of her children were seriously premature and some died as infants. Dad's side, my cousin murdered 2 people. But when he wasn't doing heroin and strangling women, he kept in touch with my mom and found the best bargains on small decorative porcelain houses for her. How sweet. That is very fricked. Hope you aren't too bothered by that stuff and it doesn't affect you or your family anymore. The Thanksgiving meal prep where my mother got her hand stuck inside the frozen turkey for several hours. Bringing this one up gets you the laser beam eyes death glare. My grandfather had a lover 4 years before him and my grandmother divorced. He started seeing her a few years before I was born. Right after the divorce was final, my grandma died from cancer and my grandpa married his old lover. She has a son. 2 years older than me. Looks just like him. No one has dared to ask any questions. I caught my parents smoking weed once when I was young and one day after I got yelled at for something threatened that I knew a secret that could tear this family apart. I just finished taking DARE so I thought that was a big deal. My parents flipped out. Turns out my dad was having an affair and my mom only had slight suspicions and I brought the whole thing to light. Did not expect that at all. My cousin who is a principal and was married with kids had an affair with a teacher. She was also married. They both ended both of their marriages and got together. The teacher was my math teacher at the time while this all happened. Now they're married and I see them at family reunions. Extremely awkward for me. Edit. Happy Cake Day OP. This couple must be so dumb. How can you expect to create a long-lasting relationship when it started from cheating on 2 people? How can they trust each other at all? It happens. My uncle cheated on my aunt with a married co-worker. They divorced their spouses and married each other. They have been married for 25 years now and look happy when we occasionally creep their Facebook. It really fricked 50% of their children up, though. When my grandmother was diagnosed with end-stage cancer, she offered to kill my father who was caught molesting me. Did you take her up on that? I was too young to know at the time. 5. She asked my mom. I didn't find out about this until I was 30. My grandmother passed when I was 12. The state I live in didn't do much to my dad despite him admitting to it, so he was still permitted access to my brother and me. I don't know any other details except that he's still alive so it never happened. He lives in another state and I haven't seen him in over 20 years. My mom remarried the man. I call my dad. Real good guy at it. I didn't know the offer was made to kill him when I was 5 years old but I knew exactly what he was doing to me and still remember it to this day. I had 2 uncles. My uncle accidentally ran over his brother when they were in their 20s and drunk one night. The brother died a few days later. That's not talked about. Only found out from my aunt when she was under anesthesia and blurting out all kinds of crap. Holy crap. I gotta start hanging out with elderly relatives going under anesthesia. The friend of a close cousin who raped me. Everyone acts like it never happened. Better yet, he died a few years later and they all were part of the big memorial that has become an annual thing. They even wear rubber bracelets for the fricker. Pretty much disowned all my family, Jesus. I'm so sorry you had to go through that, and that your family essentially kept the trauma going. Glad you got out and didn't play their BS, though I'm sure that was a brutal process as well. Sorry you went through that, and sorry your family acted that way. I hope you're doing well for yourself. I'm doing so much better. Took a long time, but I overcame most of it. Him dying in the way he did was karma in my eyes, as dark as that is to say. That my family was very involved with a small 50 family top secret cult that included preparing for the end of the world and stockpiling canned goods and water in $1 million barn in the woods surrounded by small cabins. My parents got recruited for this cult when I was 4 years old and left when I was 15. It was our whole life. Everything revolved around it. All our money went into it. My parents can't talk about it. My mother flies into an insane rage. I've never told anyone the whole story start to finish. I doubt I ever will. I could write a book about the bizarre childhood I had. My grandpa used to molest children. I was never affected personally. Yet my family is so big on the idea of second chances and forgiveness that it's incredibly taboo to talk about and everyone is just keen to forget about it. My mother literally excused it by saying that he was too old and too physically incapable of it anymore, so it no longer matters. The fact that my brother and I still keep regular contact with our former stepfather, he and our mom got divorced 3 years ago. My brother and I still attend holidays with his side of the family, occasionally grab dinner, and get along well with his new fiancée. We don't tell our mom about any of this, although she is aware that we still talk to him. I mean, the man helped raise us, and we don't hold any grudges against him. Neither of us were willing to throw that relationship away simply because he and our mom weren't married anymore. Good for you. Sounds like he deserves it, and it isn't a slight against your mom. Hopefully she sees that if she knows but doesn't object. My sister's weight. Extremely touchy subject. She started putting on the pounds at about age 11 and hit 375 before graduating from high school, along with other eating disorder standbys like hoarding and hiding food and stealing money to buy it. Her efforts to lose weight included things like pinning swimsuit model pin-ups to the fridge for encouragement. It didn't help that she was emotionally fragile and had anger management issues. My parents apparently thought that they could avoid conflict by banning all discussion of the most visible symptom of her failed coping skills. Boy, were they wrong. They didn't tolerate the lying or the stealing. There was some memorable shouting, but there was absolutely no treatment for the actual addiction, the source of the conflict. My parents were never actually married and played it off like they were for 20+ years. Oh, and my dad cheated on my mom with a dude who dresses in drag for a living. Oh, literally nothing phases me anymore. I love my mom dearly and she's the sweetest person I know. Just not so much the other one. My sister is really my stepsister. Didn't find out till I was like 35 if she's your sister in your heart. Words like step and half don't mean a thing. I got 2 stepsisters when I was 12. I don't have stepsisters. I have sisters. They're family and I take issue with anyone who says different. We aren't even that close, but I consider them my family and their husbands my brothers-in-law. And they're good guys, too. A few suicidal attention signs many of us used over the years. Kids learn from parents. So when mom said some dark shit to manipulate us a few times, we caved. When we learned it was a bluff, we started doing it, and one of my siblings even cut themselves a few times to get to what they wanted. It's rigged up. Now my mom is in her 60s and has claimed if she goes blind she will kill herself. But that was a few years ago we last heard that claim. My cousin actually committed suicide last year and there has been no cries for attention or manipulation after that. Plus we are all grown now. No better, but it was an emotionally abusive and manipulative way to grow up. Subscribe and like for more content like this.